Hey everyone, welcome back and welcome into our latest TDR Cannabis in 5 presented by Dutchie. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Today we're going to talk about more news involving rescheduling, and this time it's involving the new nominated drug czar, Sara Carter. She just cleared a hurdle in the Senate, and her words are making a lot of noise right now in the industry. So what are they? Well, she's publicly voiced support for medical cannabis, but she also stopped short of endorsing federal rescheduling. That's interesting. And that silence right now, it's raising some questions about what direction this administration is about to take. So again, this story was first reported by our good friends over at Marijuana Moment, and it's not just another DC headline. Why? Well, this appointment could define how cannabis policy is going to be handled under the Trump administration right now. So let's take a look at who Sara Carter is, what she actually said, and really what this means for the future of reform, because all eyes are on this story right now and what it could mean if you're reading between the lines. So let's get into our latest TDR Cannabis in 5 presented by Dutchie. But first, a word from our friends at Morgan & Morgan. Hey everyone, there's a reason smart investors celebrate when their portfolio jumps 40% in a year, just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. Think about it. When you're investing, you want the right team in your corner. The same is true if you're injured in dealing with an insurance company, and that is where Morgan & Morgan comes into the equation. Why? Well, they've got more than 1,000 attorneys and over 100 offices nationwide, and they've been fighting for people for over 35 years, and their track record is hard to ignore. Let me explain a little bit further. Case in point, in Florida, a client was offered $350,000 but walked away with $12 million. In Pennsylvania, another client, they turned $650,000 offer into $26 million. That's a 40x return. So in total, Morgan & Morgan, they've recovered more than $25 billion for over 500,000 clients. So really, when you hire him, it's like bringing in a legal army that has your back. Because if you're injured due to someone else's negligence, you deserve to be paid. And let's be honest, not all law firms are created equal. But with Morgan & Morgan, their fee is free unless they win. You can start your claim right now by clicking the link in the description below or by scanning this QR code on your screen with your phone. At the end of the day, if you want what you deserve, make sure you go in with the right team by contacting Morgan & Morgan today. Now, let's get back to the rest of our video. All right, thanks to our friends again over at Morgan & Morgan. Okay, let's get into it. Here's the deal. Senators have advanced Trump's pick for White House drug czar, which is Sara Carter, towards a full confirmation. And this is the position that oversees the Office of National Drug Control Policy, the ONDCP. So that office shapes how the federal government approaches everything from opioids to cannabis. You going with me here? And the tone that the drug czar sets, it matters a lot. So during her hearing, Carter said cannabis reform is a bipartisan issue. She said she's open to medical access and more research, but when asked directly about rescheduling, here's the interesting part. She didn't commit. Her exact phrasing was that she explore all options based on science and data. Now, some of that is due to the legal framework. The ONDCP director technically can't advocate for legalizing Schedule I substances under federal law, so that's important. So really, she's walking a fine line here. But it's also, if you look at it, a deliberate political move, because how she navigates this line, it'll tell us whether the Trump administration is serious about following through on cannabis reform or just keeping it right now at arm's length. And right now, it feels it's at arm's length. But we continue to hear all of these rumors. What's real? What's not? So when you look back at Carter, this isn't just one appointment. It's about how Trump's administration defines cannabis reform in this year, 2025, and beyond. Let's also not forget the Department of Health and Human Services. They already made its landmark recommendation way back in August of 2023, advising that cannabis should be moved from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, which many of you that follow this know this already. And when that was announced, it set off a chain reaction, shifting the burden to the DEA, which is still reviewing that recommendation. So now, with Carter potentially stepping in as the drug czar, her stance could influence how aggressively this administration will move towards this. So the moment of truth now. So if she supports the scientific consensus from the HHS, it reinforces the case for rescheduling. But if she dodges it, it gives political cover to slow walk the process. So that's why this nomination right now, it matters so much. And then when you add on top of that, here's where things get interesting. Trump's team, as we know, is very aware that cannabis reform polls extremely well. Even among conservative voters, medical marijuana approval is above 80% nationwide. Big number. So really, Sara Carter, who's careful, data-driven, but not openly anti-cannabis, is a smart, politically smart choice. Why? Well, she gives the administration some flexibility here. And what I mean by that is they can claim to be pro-medical, pro-science, and evaluating options, all without committing to legalization headlines that could divide parts of the base right now. But here's the thing. Don't buy the idea that this administration is going to play it safe. Why do I say that? Because if Trump wants quick wins that show action and drive, let's face it, momentum, which he is a big component of, it's one of the easiest, most popular moves he can make right now. That's why a lot of people right now are saying, hey, if you're the common sense president, then let's do something common sense towards this. And really, again, we'll repeat ourselves. It's bipartisan. It doesn't require Congress. It helps small businesses, and it's a positive headline, especially as states continue to rack up tax revenue and job growth for legal markets. So Carter's cautious tone isn't a red flag to me. It isn't. It's a sign that this administration is staging the rollout carefully, and that is what's happening right now. That's why I always say, be patient. I hate that word, but it's the reality. Because I do believe there's a lot of work taking place right now to build the proper infrastructure to get our rescheduling announcement. And really, to explain that further, they want the optics, they want the timing, and the narrative to land exactly when they choose in all this. And further to that, let's also remember the influence of this office. As Drug Czar, Carter won't just be making public statements. She'll be coordinating through the DEA, the DOJ, the HHS, and even Treasury on drug-related priorities. That means if she's leaning towards reform, even quietly, she can help unlock research funding, deprioritize outdated enforcement, and create the policy groundwork for rescheduling to actually stick here. So there's a lot of moving parts. So think of her as the bridge between politics and policy. And if she takes a hands-off approach, things stall. But if she leans into the data, then things obviously will move fast. So really, let's cut through all the noise here, because here's what I think is really happening and what's going on right now. One, they can manage politically, but still claim credit for economically. They also want to steal this issue. And if you look at Trump's history on this issue, he's never been anti-cannabis. He's talked about states' rights, medical freedom, and letting markets do what they want to do. He also wants to crush the Democrats and steal this issue. So really, Sara Carter's nomination, it fits that narrative perfectly. Someone credible who can frame reform through a medical and scientific lens. So really, when I hear somebody say, hey, we're exploring all options, I don't hear hesitation. I hear coordination that's going on right now. And really, if I had to bet, I think we're closer to federal rescheduling than what most people realize right now. Because from a political standpoint, it checks every box, bipartisan, economic, and socially mainstream. And it's about to become political because President Trump wants to squash Democrats. He's voiced that so much online right now. So really now, the only risk here is if Carter and the administration stall too long. The administration has been burned before by political lip service, as we know, everyone promising more research while states shoulder the weight of reform on their own. And if that happens again, it'll hurt credibility and investor confidence. We go back and forth on this. But the difference, I believe now, is the market pressure and public demand is far stronger. We've had lots of conversations about this recently. So you can't unring the bell. Cannabis is here. It's an economic engine, and it's part of the 2025 political landscape. So that's my view. Inaction would be the riskier move, as this White House doesn't strike me as one that sits on opportunities like this, and I think they'll act. So as we wrap all this together, here's my takeaway, and really it's simple. Now is the time to engage. Yes, indeed. If you're a business leader or an investor or a policymaker in this space, this is when you start building relationships and making your case. Sara Carter says she's guided by data and science, right? Perfect. Then show her the data. Show her the jobs created, the revenue collected, the patients helped, the law enforcement resources saved. All this has got to be communicated to her. Make it impossible to ignore that this industry is not a risk. It's a proven sector ready for legitimacy. And if this administration is serious about economic growth and American manufacturing, let's face it, cannabis fits that message perfectly. So let's be the global leader when it comes to cannabis research and get this announcement made already. So to wrap it up, Sara Carter's nomination, it signals a new phase in federal cannabis politics under the Trump administration. She also supports medical use and more research, but hasn't endorsed rescheduling yet. And I want to emphasize on yet. Plus, the HHS, they made its rescheduling recommendation back in August of 2023, and the DEA is still reviewing it. So in my opinion, Trump's team is definitely positioning for a calculated political move to own reform and do it on their own terms. This isn't about if it happens anymore, it's really when. And that's exactly why these next few weeks or months could define the industry's next decade. Yes, decade. That's it for now. I'm Shad Dales. This has been the latest TDR Cannabis in 5 presented by Dutchie. Drop your thoughts below in the comment section below. We'd love to keep this conversation going. As usual, if you like this breakdown, give it a like, smash that bell for notifications. Greatly appreciated if you could subscribe to us here at TDR. Take care, everyone. We'll see you in the next video. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again for watching.